Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Ivy English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Today we continue talking about oases. We're in a desert, or in deserts around the world, but these deserts have aquifers. They have pools or streams. They have some supply of water, which makes it possible for people to grow crops or enjoy swimming pools in the middle of the desert, whatever function they like. We talked about all of this yesterday, and we continue to talk about some very unusual things that have been found in or around oases.
好，我们今天这篇是昨天那篇文章的第二部分，我们的标题是隐藏在沙漠中的生命之泉绿洲。好，那昨天我们有提到说，这个绿洲之所以存在，是因为沙漠的地底下其实还是有含水层啊，它还是有水的。那些水有时候会浮出来啊，或者是跑到表面，那就形成了绿洲。好，然后所以绿洲是有水的，而且因为有水，所以可以种东西啊，可以有水源，所以甚至于可能成为一个度假中心都有可能。
Okay, I'll read through today's reading. The subject naturally is oases, and that's how we start. Oases have had a strong influence on the development of society in desert regions. Aspects of trade, military, and political power have all been impacted by oases. Merchants have relied on these lush, fertile zones to get access to vital water, food, and other supplies on their journeys. Historically, the Baharia Oasis, located 370 kilometers from Cairo, is notable. During the time pharaohs ruled Egypt, this water reserve was an agricultural center, and many trade caravans relied on access to it. More recently, tourism has brought important revenue to the region, which spans more than 2,000 square kilometers. History lovers will be fascinated by the area's history and geographical features. In recent years, more than 100 golden mummies were discovered as part of a tomb system, which radar has shown to include more than 10,000 mummies. This amazing discovery was made in 1996 when a donkey stumbled into a hole and the animal's owner saw the face of a shiny, golden-colored mummy inside. The mummies are near another significant piece of history, the Temple of Alexander the Great. Visitors to the region can also see tombs cut out of rock which belonged to a wealthy family that lived around 2,500 years ago. In terms of physical features, Baharia is known for its hot and cold springs and Crystal Mountain, which is not really a mountain, but rather large clusters of various types of crystals. Sitting in stark contrast to the harsh, arid conditions that surround them, oases are remarkable. They exist as fragile yet crucial ecosystems that still fulfill important roles, providing significant agricultural, tourism, and life-giving benefits to many regions.
Okay, so oases have had a strong influence on the development of society in desert regions. If you consider that the desert regions we're speaking about run all the way around Central Asia and what's called the Middle East, this area has been like a mixing ground of trade for thousands of years. And so water sources are very, very important when you are traveling. And so, of course, major water sources are going to become major hubs of trade.
好，所以这个水当然很重要，尤其古时候你如果要贸易或者是要远行的话，一定要有跟水源有关系的地方，那就一定就是大家会聚集的地方。所以这里要讲的都是这个沙漠呢，它 have had a strong influence on， 这个各位其实可以记起来，就是 have had a strong influence on something， 就是它有很大的影响的意思。所以沙漠对什么有很大的影响呢？而且是现在完成式，就 从古到今它已经有很大的影响了。影响什么呢？影响 the development of society， 影响了社会的发展。那各位也是要注意 society 通常前面不会加冠词。好 the development of society， 这很多人会搞错，常常会加一个 the society， 那是指特别的一个社会或者是一个社团。好，所以各位就注意 the development of society， 把它整个背起来，把声音背起来，你就不会再乱加那个冠词了。所以呢，绿洲对于沙漠地区的社会发展有很大的影响。Regions 就是地区的意思。
Aspects of trade, military, and political power have all been impacted by oases. Angela brought this up in such a large area where people have moved around for many different reasons, such as trade, military, or political conquest, and so on. Oases have allowed people to travel throughout this area and still survive.
Aspects 就是方面啊，各方面。哪些方面呢？ Trade 贸易 military 军事，还有呢这个政治的一些力量啊的各方面呢，都 have all been impacted by 啊，他们都被什么东西有受到很大的影响呢？这个 impact 就是很强的一个影响 ，a strong effect。那这个用动词的话，就 to have a strong effect on 的意思。这 impact 这个字呢，它其实本来是蛮强的一个字，它的字根的意思是 press closely into something， 所以它是受到很大的冲击跟影响啊。那所以在这个地方讲到说，这各种社会的各个层面都受到这个绿洲的影响。
Merchants, people who transport and sell goods, they have relied on these lush, fertile zones to get access to vital water, food, and other supplies on their journeys. So something is lush, it's basically filled with green or filled with beauty. Or it could also be filled with power and money, depending on your zone. But we're talking about natural areas, so it's filled with green and beauty. They're also fertile. You can grow food there, which is also key. So they need access to vital, life-giving, basically. Vital means you need it for life. Water, of course, and food, and then other supplies on their journeys, because people would set up shop at the oases to supply travelers.
好，所以这个 merchants 就是商人。have relied on 他们依赖这些 lush 就是很繁茂的这个非常很多绿色的growing luxuriantly 的意思就是长得很繁茂的。那 fertile 就是肥沃的这些地区 zones 就是地区。好，所以这个商人依赖这些这个树木繁茂很肥沃的地区来 get access to 来获取来取得。Vital 就是非常非常重要的 absolutely necessary 是 essential 的意思。因为就像刚刚 Angela 老师讲，这个 vital 它的字根呢就是 vita V-I-T-A， 这在拉丁文里面就是 life 的意思，就是生命的意思。所以 vital 是跟生命有关的，没有就会死的，那叫 vital。那用来指水，用来指食物是非常恰当的。所以他们要能够取得水啊、食物啊，还有其他的 supplies， 其他的补给品 on their journeys， 在他们的旅途上面要取得这些补给品。在绿洲是非常重要的，是 vital。这些补给品对他们是 vital， 绿洲对他们也是 vital。
Historically, the Baharia Oasis, located 370 kilometers from Cairo, is notable. From the aspect of history, an oasis called Baharia is notable, it's noteworthy, it is important, it is very, very interesting. It's exceptional. 370 kilometers is roughly 200 miles, so that's quite a hike if you're on a camel.
好，所以370公里这个差不多是200里这个英里所以是蛮远的一段路所以这个句子他说 historically 就是历史上面呢，这个巴哈利亚绿洲它怎么样呢？补充一个讯息，它是 located， 它位于这个开罗距离开罗370公里。那这个绿洲呢，它是 notable 它是很重要的，值得我们注意的。
I forgot to mention Cairo, of course, is the capital and largest city in Egypt.
那开罗是埃及最大而且是首都的它是埃及最大的城市，也是埃及的首都。
Now, during the time pharaohs ruled Egypt, which is like 2,000 years ago, more or less, this water reserve was an agricultural center. So the Baharia Oasis was already a super important place during the time that the pharaohs ruled Egypt. So it was an agricultural center. People grew food there. And also, many trade caravans relied on access to it. A trade caravan is basically a whole bunch of merchants getting together to travel together because there's safety in numbers, and a single merchant running around with valuable goods on a camel is much more likely to be attacked and robbed and ruined. But if you're all together in a caravan, it's much more easy to band together for protection. So trade caravans have been a thing for thousands of years, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pharaohs started something like 5,000 years ago. The Giza pyramid, those three famous pyramids were built about 4,500 years ago, but there were already pharaohs before they were built.
所以这个年代很古老哈，这个法老王，埃及法老王的时代，差不多要5000年前啊。好，所以他说在这个 during the time， 在这段期间，什么期间呢？法老王还在统治埃及的这段期间啊。那在那个时候，法老王时期呢，这个 water reserve 这个水源保护区呢，是一个 agricultural center， 是一个农业的中心。啊，然后呢，很多的 trade caravans 就是商队啊，这 caravan 它是通常是穿越沙漠的一个商队哈，或者可能是个朝圣的队伍。好，所以这些商队呢，在当时呢 relied on 他们完全要依靠 access to it， 他们要依靠能够取得啊，或者是能够到达这些绿洲啊，不然到不了的话，大概就完蛋了。所以这是 relied on access to it。More
recently, tourism has brought important revenue to the region, which spans more than 2,000 square kilometers. In modern-day tourism, we just hop on a 747, fly from New York or Sydney or Taipei to Cairo, and then we can tour the desert areas. Now, this region around the Baharia Oasis, it's not just the oasis, it's a region around it, is 2,000 square kilometers. That's, at least as large as, say, Hualien County.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fair piece of land.
Or a nice state in I forgot where.
One of your estates somewhere in the world.
OK， 好，所以这个地方我们看到这个句子哈，他说 more recently 哈，就是在更近的时候哈，就是更靠近现在的时候呢，也就其实就现在了哈。那他说 tourism 就是观光业哈 has brought 带来了 important 很重要的 revenue 就是收益哈，收入就是 income。通常是一个组织的啊，例如国家等等税收等等啊，那而且通常数量都蛮大的，才会叫做 revenue 啊。所以观光业带来的可观的收入啊，带入了这一个地区啊。那这个地区怎么样 ？Which 就是指的 region， spans 就是 extend across 这个地区呢，横跨它涵盖了超过2000平方公里的这样的一个地区。
History lovers will be fascinated by the area's history and geographical features, of which there are many of each.
好，所以呢 history lovers 就是爱好历史的人，历史爱好者呢 will be fascinated by 他们会为什么所深深吸引，叫做 to be fascinated by 他们会被这个地区的历史还有这个地区的地理上的一些特色所深深的吸引。好，那这个 geographical 都是地理上面的 features 就是一个特色哈，它是一个 distinctive attribute 啊的，或就是一个很特别的，会让你特别注意到的一个性质，一个特色。
In recent years, more than 100 golden mummies were discovered as part of a tomb system, which radar has shown to include more than 10,000 mummies.
I have to say, ground radar has been one of the greatest boons to archaeological people since whenever. I mean, you can find so much now, and then you know where to dig and what you got. 10,000 mummies, holy cow!
Yeah， 所以在考古学上面，因为现在有这种可以地底探测的雷达哈，所以对考古有非常大的帮助，因为它可以告诉你说这个什么东西埋在地里面什么地方啊。所以地方讲到说啊，这个近年来哈，那有超过100个 golden 就是黄金啊 mummies 木乃伊。这 golden 呢，它可能是金色的，也可能是金子做的。Golden can mean colored by gold， 或者是 made of gold。好，所以这个黄金木乃伊呢 were discovered 被发现 as part of 这个是这些黄金木乃伊是什么东西的一部分呢？是一个 tomb system， 一个坟墓的系统的一部分。那这个 which 就在这个坟墓系统里面呢，雷达 has shown 雷达显示出来，这里这个坟墓系统呢包含超过10000个木乃伊。
Now, this amazing discovery was made in 1996 when a donkey stumbled into a hole. This is the traditional way of finding things, by the way. Somebody falls into a hole, and then you oh, there's something in this hole. And in this case, the animal's owner saw the face of a shiny, golden-colored mummy inside. Honestly, if I looked into a hole and saw a shiny golden face, I would have got right the heck out of there, not even thought about calling an archaeologist.
She would have run back to Cairo.
I would have run right back to Cairo with my donkey.
Yeah, 真的是这大部分的人如果说掉到或者是绊倒，碰到一个洞里面，看到一个洞里面有一个黄金的一个脸的话，大概都吓得赶快跑了不过这个其实很多考古的发现都是这样偶然之间发现的。所以他说这个 amazing 这个令人惊讶的一个 discovery was made 是什么时候发生的呢？这个发现是在1996年发生的。when 就在当时呢，有一只驴子stumbled into 就是绊跌或者是摔的意思stumble 就是 almost fall 通常是这个你 trip 绊倒，然后怎么样暂时的 lose your balance 所以总之呢，就是这个驴子被绊到了。被一个洞所绊到了而且它有 into， 所以怎么可能跌进去或怎么样？好，然后呢，那这个动物它的主人呢，看到了一个脸，什么脸呢？是一个 shiny 闪闪发光、闪亮的一个 golden colored 一个金色的 mummy， 一个金色的这个木乃伊的脸所以它主人看到了那个金色的脸 inside， 就在这个洞里面看到这样的一个脸所以就从此就开始发现到这个木乃伊了。
Another word about stumble, we're referring to it here, both of you talking about tripping, almost falling, and so on. But you can also stumble upon something, unexpectedly happen upon something. It doesn't refer to falling down.
好，所以 stumbled upon something 就它不一定是表示跌倒，它可能就是巧遇没有计划的碰到的意思。
Okay. Next sentence, the mummies are near another significant piece of history. Earlier, we talked about the area's history and geographical features. Here's another aspect of the history, the Temple of Alexander the Great. I don't know if Alexander the Great made it to Egypt or not, but he was the greatest figure of his time.
Yes, he did.
They built a temple to him. He was the greatest person of his age.
所以呢，这个 the mummies are near 就是 close to 就是靠近另外一个很重要的 significant piece of history， 一个历史上很重要的另外一间一个其实在这里指的这个建筑啦，就是亚历山大大帝的神庙。
Visitors to the region can also see tombs cut out of rock, which belonged to a wealthy family that lived around 2,500 years ago. So you can see the graves of the 2,500 years ago super rich.
Super rich 这超级有钱的人所以这地方看到他说 visitors to the region 注意那个介系词 to 就是到这个地区来的一些访客或者观光客也可以看到这个坟墓 tombs 什么样的坟墓呢 tombs cut out of rock 是用石头切割而成的坟墓那这个是belonged to 那这坟墓是属于一个很有钱的家族那这个家族呢 that lived around 2,500 years ago 大概是2500年前住在这个地方的一个家族的坟墓。
In terms of physical features, talking about physical features, what things look like, Baharia is known for its hot and cold springs. Now, springs are often found near oases. These are places in deserts, most often in deserts, but water comes up to the surface. Sometimes it's cold because it's come up from a place where there's no sunlight and very little heat, and sometimes they're hot. They are warmed by the interior of the earth. Also, Crystal Mountain, which is not really a mountain, but rather large clusters, large groups of various types of crystals. Crystals are rocks which have usually beautiful properties. Sometimes they're glass-like. Sometimes they're very colorful.
And usually they're buried in caves or underground, but this is like an exposed outcropping of crystals, basically.
Yeah, good word, outcrop.
好，这 outcrop 就是显露在外的，露在外面的。好，那我们看到这 in terms of 就是 with regard to 的意思啊，就什么而言，就它的 physical features 物理的特征而言呢，那这一个绿洲呢 is known for 它以什么知名？它以它的 hot and cold springs， 它的温泉还有冷泉啊。那各位注意那个 hot springs 重音在前面哈，不要念的 hot springs。那 cold springs 也是一样，冷泉啊，你不要把它念的 cold springs 啊。所以这个地方 hot and cold springs 就是有温泉有冷泉，还有一个叫水晶山。但他马上告诉你说 which 就是水晶山呢 is not really a mountain， 它不是真的一个山 but rather 而是比较是一个 large 很大的一个 cluster， 就是一组一群of various types of crystals， 它其实是一大团的这个不同各式各样的水晶。
Sitting in stark contrast to the harsh, arid conditions that surround them, oases are remarkable.A stark contrast is something that's like a comparison that's so obviously different. So a very stark contrast would be black and white. But also a very good example of a stark contrast is a green oasis, lush and beautiful, surrounded by completely dry desert sand.
Yeah.这个 stark 这个字呢，它常常跟 contrast 一起放在一起用哈。那所谓的 stark contrast 就是鲜明的对比。好，所以这个地方 sitting in stark contrast to 就是跟什么什么形成鲜明的对比呢？跟这个 harsh 就是严酷的这个 sharply disagreeable 很严酷的那个 arid 就是这个很干的没有足够的水分的，或者是 lifeless 没有生气的，跟这个很严酷很没有生气没有水的 condition 这些各种状况或者气候的条件相比之下形成一个鲜明的对比那这个是什么东西跟他们这个鲜明的对比呢？也就是绿洲嘛，绿洲跟它周围的这个 harsh arid conditions 形成鲜明的对比。好，所以这些绿洲呢，他们是 remarkable remarkable 就是不简单或者你可以说是吸睛这个 worthy of attention.
They, we're talking about oases, of course, they exist as fragile yet crucial ecosystems.Fragile means easy to break, easy to harm, and yet some of these oases go on for centuries. They are crucial ecosystems. Without them, the Middle East and North Africa might never have developed the way they have to this time. And because they are there, deserts do have oases, they can fulfill important roles. They can play important roles in the areas around them. How? By providing significant, once again, noteworthy or remarkable agricultural, tourism, and life-giving benefits to many regions. People wouldn't go there or couldn't go there to these desolate desert areas unless there were these oases.
好，所以这个句子他说 they exist， 这些绿洲存在是一个 fragile 就是很脆弱的 easily broken or damaged， 但是是一个 crucial 是个 critical 非常重要的这个 ecosystems 很重要的一个生态系统。那这些系统呢，生态系统仍然会 fulfill 后面接的是 roles。 好， fulfill roles 就是这个 fulfill 就 carry out a role 或者是一个 duty， 所以他们仍然这个扮演的重要的角色什么样重要角色？它后面一个分词告诉你说他们提供了 significant 很重要的农业还有观光还有赋予生命的等等的 benefits 一些优点或者好处 to many regions， 把这些好处提供给很多的地区。
Okay, before we go, we have 4 questions for you. And remember, these will be based on yesterday's and today's lessons.
好，那我们的问题是昨天跟今天的文章都有关的，所以我们来试试看这些问题。
Number 1 is, which of the following is not mentioned in the passage? Which one do we not talk about?
本文没有提到底下哪一项呢？
The answer is where the smallest oasis in the world is. We talked about the largest and a bunch of important ones, but we didn't talk about the smallest one.
好，答案是 B， 世界上最小的绿洲在哪里？好，我们讲到最大的，但是我们没有提到最小的绿洲。
Number 2, according to the passage, what happened in the mid-1960s?
根据本文，1960年代中期发生了什么事呢？
The answer is C. A major project helped an oasis grow more food.
答案是 C， 有一个大型的计划帮助一个绿洲长出更多的食物。
And number 3, why have oases been influential regarding trade?
为什么绿洲对贸易有影响力呢？
The answer is D, that historically merchants have always gone there to get supplies of food and water.
答案是 D， 商人会去那里补充食物跟水。
Number 4, Jacob wants to find some information related to the Baharia Oasis. Which of the following key words would he most likely use on the search engine?
第4题，雅各想要找一些关于巴哈利亚绿洲的资讯，他最有可能在搜寻引擎上使用以下哪些关键字呢？
The answer is D. Oasis, donkey, mummy, pharaoh, tourism, crystal, Egypt.
好，这个问题是素养题，是新型的阅读测验。那其实它是一种综合性的，也就是说，你在我们刚刚谈到这一个巴哈利亚绿洲的时候呢，我们谈到了哪些主题？那这些主题都有可能是搜寻引擎上你要搜寻的时候使用的关键字。所以答案是 D。我们在这文章里面看到了这些主题。首先，他谈的是个绿洲，然后呢有驴，因为他在这个地方发现了很多的这个mummies 那他是因为驴而发现的。然后呢跟 mummies 有关，所以木乃伊也是一个 keyword。然后呢他在法老王的时代怎样怎样，所以这也有提到，所以它也是个 keyword。那观光业这里现在有观光，这也有提到。然后水晶，因为它有讲到 Crystal Mountain 所以有水晶山，这也有提到。那这个地方是在这个绿洲是在埃及，所以埃及会提得到。所以 D 是正确答案，因为这些地方都是他提到的，都有可能是你搜寻的时候使用的关键字。
Okay, that's it for the 2 lessons, actually. Please join us whenever you can. Until the next time we're together, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.